4 impossible tasks. One day. And everyone in this office was quietly waiting to see me break. I sit down at my desk, and the first thing that hits me is the noise, the soft hum of fluorescent lights overhead, the relentless ping of incoming emails, the low buzz of the office's AC system, and the distant click-clack of heels echoing down the hallway. My monitor is alive with notifications. 4 tasks flagged as high priority, each one alone deserving a full day of focus. But here they are, stacked like some impossible tower, as if someone thought it funny to see me crumble under their weight. I lean back in my chair for a moment, taking a slow breath, letting the air settle in my chest. There's no panic, no sigh of defeat, just a quiet acknowledgment of reality. This is exactly the test I expected. I scan the tasks again. Each one is intricate, multi-layered, and demanding. And I know because I've been here before that this is intentional. A subtle power play, wrapped in the corporate version of, let's see how she handles it. I imagine the half smiles, the side glances, the colleagues exchanging looks that say, this is too much for her. I let the thought pass without giving it weight. My focus sharpens. My shoulders straighten. Quiet power. I remind myself this is the moment it's called for. The office around me moves like a river with its own rhythm. A colleague leans over a cubicle to ask a quick question. The printer hums warnings about a jammed paper tray, and the coffee machine hisses in the distance. But for me, the chaos slows. I see my screen not as a flood of impossible tasks, but as a map, a puzzle, waiting for strategy. My fingers hover over the keyboard, but I don't type yet. I make a mental note of priorities, dependencies, and what could be automated. I notice the subtle ways my colleagues react. One glances at me with curiosity, then quickly masks it with a polite nod. Another flicks their eyes toward the boss's office, silently confirming that the challenge is indeed unfair. I observe without judgment. My notebook is open, pen ready, and I begin to sketch out a rough workflow, noting redundancies, repetitive steps, and bottlenecks. Things no one else seems to see because they're too busy reacting emotionally. The air feels heavy, not with threat, but with anticipation. I can almost feel the eyes in the room, even though I haven't looked up. I know they're expecting one of two things: a visible struggle or the quiet surrender that comes when someone feels overextended. But I have none of that in me today. My quiet confidence is not about being unflappable. It's about understanding the system, reading the room, and knowing exactly what I can control. I take another slow breath, letting my chest expand. My gaze softens as I look at the stack of tasks. There is a rhythm here if I listen closely. The cadence of work waiting to be optimized, the tiny inefficiencies that, if corrected, could transform the impossible into something manageable. I feel a subtle thrill. The challenge is large but not insurmountable. Not because I'm faster or smarter than anyone else, though I am both, but because I see differently. I see the system, not just the task. I see leverage, not pressure. I tap my pen lightly against the edge of my notebook, a micro gesture of focus, and begin jotting down the steps in each task. 1, 2, 3. Layer by layer, mapping the work like a chessboard. My breathing is steady. My posture is deliberate. My eyes move from notebook to screen and back again. The room hums around me, but I am centered, a quiet force in motion. And then, without fanfare, I start envisioning the automation. Zapier for one set of tasks, a small internal script for another. The hours stretch in front of me like a daunting landscape, but I can see a path that slices through it efficiently. 7 hours condensed to a fraction. 45 minutes if executed precisely. I allow a small, almost imperceptible smile, a curl of lips no one would notice but me. I know the advantage is mine, and I will use it deliberately. I glance at the clock. Time is both ally and enemy. I begin arranging my workspace, opening the programs ill need, lining up data sheets and scripts like soldiers ready for drill. The office feels suddenly too loud, then silent, depending on where I focus. My mind traces the steps before I even touch the keys. The tasks are no longer enemies, they're opportunities for strategy, for leverage, for demonstrating capability that exceeds expectation. And in that quiet moment, sitting amid the cluttered desk, glowing screen, and endless pings, I know something else. This is more than completing 4 tasks. It is a chance to transform how the team works, to show that the system itself can be elevated, and to do it in a way that is intelligent, precise, and quietly undeniable. The test is theirs, but the victory, if I play it right, will be mine. I straighten my back again, smooth my notes, and place my hands lightly on the keyboard. Quiet power, I repeat silently. Not loud, not flashy, not dramatic. Just exact, deliberate, ready. The impossible load has become my proving ground, and I am ready to prove that being underestimated was their first mistake. The office clock ticks deliberately, each second stretching the silence into something almost tangible. I haven't touched my keyboard yet, and yet I can feel the weight of the room settling in around me. Then, the moment comes. My boss, leaning casually against the edge of the conference table, just beyond my cubicle, smirks, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "Let's see if you can handle real responsibility," he says. The words are casual, almost joking, but the undertone is clear. This is a test. Everyone around me is watching not for me to succeed, but for me to falter. I feel the room's energy shift. Colleagues glance at each other. Brief, almost imperceptible nods of anticipation, waiting for the inevitable stumble. There's a subtle thrill in the tension, a pulse in the air you can almost taste. My chest remains calm, shoulders grounded, posture deliberate. Quiet power is not loud. It's the stillness of knowing you see more than anyone else in the room, even if they haven't realized it yet. I pick up my pen and notebook, turning the page to a clean sheet. I begin to map the flow of the 4 tasks, breaking each down into individual steps, identifying redundancies and inefficiencies. As my pen moves across the paper, I notice small patterns that no one else seems to recognize. The repeated approval loops, the unnecessary manual transfers, the tiny delays that add up to hours wasted. Each insight is like a small victory, a tiny crack in the mountain of work they think will crush me. I jot them down meticulously, annotating the steps that can be automated, the points where a script can take over. Across the office, subtle micro-gestures betray the anticipation. A colleague taps their fingers against the desk, another shifts weight from one foot to another, eyes darting toward me as if expecting failure. I notice them, but I do not acknowledge. Instead, I imagine the tasks as pieces of a chessboard and myself moving silently, several steps ahead. Smart revenge is forming in my mind, not loud, not confrontational, but precise. The kind of strategy that leaves everyone stunned when it is revealed, not before. I start mentally rehearsing the execution. Zapier can handle the repetitive data transfers. A small internal script will handle report formatting automatically. What would have taken 7 hours if approached in the conventional way will be reduced to under an hour, if done right. I feel the thrill not in defeating the tasks, but in designing a solution that elevates the system, quietly exposing inefficiencies while making it appear seamless. The tension grows as I hear the boss muttering to another team member, likely speculating whether he'll break under the pressure. I imagine the smirk fading the moment the system starts working efficiently, the realization hitting that what they thought would overwhelm me is exactly where I shine. I feel a subtle grin press against my lips, but I keep it contained. Quiet power is most effective when it's barely visible. I glance around the office once more. Every colleague's posture tells the story. Curiosity, mixed with doubt, expectation laced with skepticism. They have already invested in seeing me fail. I turn the page in my notebook again and write down the first steps for the automation, small checkboxes that map the sequence like dominoes waiting to fall. Every detail is accounted for: approvals, scripts, triggers, contingency paths. I am preparing the groundwork for a reveal that will seem effortless, though it is anything but. A small internal alarm goes off, reminder of a meeting in 15 minutes. Perfect. Timing is crucial. I will not just complete the tasks. I will demonstrate the system's inefficiency, the wasted hours, and how one person, with focus and strategy, can convert impossible workloads into efficiency that uplifts the whole department. The smart revenge isn't to humiliate, it's to elevate while proving capability undeniable. I lean back for a moment, fingers steepled lightly, thinking 3 moves ahead. The office hums around me, a low, constant undercurrent of skepticism, chatter, and printer clicks. My mind is silent, cataloging every micro-action, anticipating objections, and preemptively designing solutions. The suspense builds naturally, not through drama, but through precision, control, and anticipation. The stage is set, the audience is ready, and I am calm, prepared, and more than capable. By the time the meeting rolls around, the foundation is laid. 4 impossible tasks are no longer a mountain, they are a blueprint. What they think will break me is about to be transformed into a quiet demonstration of intelligence, power, and foresight. My colleagues think they're watching a test unfold. They have no idea the system itself is about to be upgraded, quietly and irreversibly. And in that quiet, deliberate moment, I remind myself, the first crack isn't in me, it's in their assumption that they can underestimate me. Be honest. What would you do if it was you sitting in that room? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear you. The moment I touch the keyboard, the room's expectation hangs in the air like static. No one notices, but I feel every gaze, every subtle twitch of anticipation. This is where the plan becomes real. I start with the first task, 7 hours of repetitive, tedious steps that would crush anyone who tried to follow the conventional route. But I see the patterns, the redundancies, the small inefficiencies that no one else notices. My fingers move deliberately, setting up Zapier to automate the data transfers, while a small internal script handles formatting and notifications. I watch the tasks begin to process themselves. Each automated step clicks into place, silently, efficiently, invisibly. 7 hours of labor shrink before my eyes into 45 minutes. 45 minutes. I pause briefly, letting that sink in, allowing a subtle smile to form, barely perceptible but satisfying. No one is looking yet. They are still caught in their assumption that this workload will break me. That assumption will be the very thing that makes the reveal devastating. The cursor dances across spreadsheets, dragging data, triggering scripts, and populating reports. I track every step silently, adjusting, fine-tuning, optimizing, small micro-gestures, tapping the pen, flicking the mouse, a slight nod to myself signal control, precision, and mastery. Every inefficiency I encounter becomes an opportunity to prove something larger, that the system itself can work smarter, not harder, and that I am the one capable of seeing the solution others can't. I glance up briefly at the office, pretending to check emails, though my eyes catch every subtle reaction. Some colleagues fidget, others lean closer, drawn by curiosity they don't fully understand. They sense a shift but can't put a finger on it. That quiet power, the control I have over the chaos, is invisible yet absolute. And it's precisely what makes smart revenge effective. Not confrontation, not boasting, but undeniable competence executed with finesse. Every script completes flawlessly. Notifications ping quietly, but in a way that signals completion without fanfare. The time saved is staggering: 7 hours, condensed into 45 minutes. I know the exact moment to present this, and I visualize the reaction. Jaws dropping, colleagues exchanging confused glances, the boss's smirk faltering. They wanted a struggle. Instead, they are about to witness a transformation of the workflow they assumed was immutable. I begin to prepare the evidence for the meeting. Screenshots, workflow diagrams, step-by-step automation sequences, all laid out to make the invisible visible. The room will see the efficiency, the intelligence, and the quiet elegance of the solution. The beauty of smart revenge is that it doesn't humiliate. It elevates. By proving the system was flawed and that I could fix it, I demonstrate capability beyond mere completion. I show leadership, foresight, and strategy. I take a slow, deliberate breath, letting the gravity of the moment settle. The suspense builds naturally, not through drama, but through precision, control, and timing. My colleagues remain unaware of the secret unfolding on my screen, still assuming the mountain of work will overwhelm me. They do not see that I have already climbed it, mapped it, and reshaped it entirely on my terms. Finally, I lean back slightly, eyes scanning the now optimized dashboard, scripts humming quietly in the background. Everything is in place: the time saved, the automation, the process improvements. They are ready to be revealed in the meeting. And when they are, the room won't just see that I finished the work. They will see the system itself transformed. The impossible load is no longer impossible. It's upgraded, streamlined, undeniable, and I am the one who made it happen. And in that moment, I feel it. The quiet thrill of smart revenge, executed perfectly. Not loud, not petty. Just precise. Just powerful. The evidence is ready. And soon, the room will have no choice but to acknowledge what they tried to deny: that I am capable of turning expectation into opportunity, chaos into order, and impossible tasks into undeniable proof of quiet, strategic power. The office hums around me, but I feel like I am in a world of my own. Screens glow, papers rustle, and the soft hum of fluorescent lights provides a rhythm, a heartbeat that matches the pulse of my own focus. The 4 tasks, once a looming mountain, now lie mapped out before me like a chessboard. Each step, each inefficiency, each redundant motion has been identified, documented, and assigned a solution. I don't boast. I don't brag. I don't need to. Quiet power is most potent when it is invisible until it strikes. I begin assembling the presentation, each slide a piece of the story I am about to tell. The first slide is deceptively simple, a chart showing the original process, tedious, redundant, painfully manual. Next, I layer in the solution: Zapier automations, internal scripts, triggers that streamline approvals, formatting, and reporting. Every inefficiency highlighted. Every unnecessary step accounted for. The transformation is evident even at a glance. I feel a subtle thrill. This is not just a presentation. It is a demonstration of insight, intelligence, and strategy. I step back from my screen, letting the sequence of slides settle in my mind like a well-rehearsed performance. Every visual, every diagram, every annotation is deliberate. Each one is a calculated move in my quiet revolution. I imagine the room during the meeting. Colleagues leaning forward, bosses eyebrow lifting, skeptical glances transformed into silent acknowledgment. I don't just want to complete the tasks they need to see the system itself upgraded. I rehearse the lines in my mind. Not a word too many, not a gesture wasted. I didn't just finish the task. I fixed the system that made it inefficient. The words are simple but carry weight. They are the tip of the iceberg. the moment the invisible power becomes visible. Every colleague who assumed I was overwhelmed will feel the subtle shock of unexpected competence. Every glance of doubt will meet an unshakable display of mastery. This is quiet, smart revenge. Not loud, not angry, not petty, but undeniable. I pause and look around the office, taking note of small details. A colleague taps their fingers nervously on the desk. Another leans in. Curiosity piqued. The boss, oblivious, reviews papers nearby. No one sees the silent choreography unfolding, how every step I take, every slide I prepare, every note I make is part of a strategy designed to elevate, not humiliate. This is empowerment in its most elegant form. Intelligence, preparation, and control combined into action that speaks louder than any argument. The automation dashboard is ready. Spreadsheets are live, scripts queued, processes verified. I run through a dry simulation silently, each step executing perfectly. 45 minutes worth of work flows seamlessly across multiple systems, all optimized, all efficient. I note every detail in the slides. Timestamps, efficiency gains, hours saved. 7 hours compressed into 45 minutes. Every redundancy removed. Every bottleneck eliminated. The magnitude of the change is subtle, but undeniable. I focus on the aesthetics, too. Slides are clear, visually compelling, not cluttered. Each diagram tells a story without needing explanation. I want the impact to be immediate. When I speak, the audience's attention goes directly to the solution, the transformation, and the quiet genius behind it. There is beauty in precision, in control, in knowing that when the reveal comes, there is no way for anyone to argue with the results. As I arrange my notes, I practice micro-gestures. Fingers steepled, subtle nods, small hand movements to emphasize key points, eye contact rehearsed for each colleague in the room. Every motion is intentional, deliberate, conveying confidence without arrogance. I know the power of quiet authority. It is impossible to dismiss because it is rooted in mastery, not theatrics. The room will respond, not to drama, but to clarity and competence. I take a slow breath and run through the mental sequence one last time. Slide 1, problem. Slide 2, inefficiency highlighted. Slide 3, automation implemented. Slide 4, time saved. Slide 5, system transformed. Each transition smooth, deliberate, like a narrative unfolding. Each colleague watching will see not only the solution, but the unseen effort, the precision, and the quiet strategy behind it. Then I pause on the final slide. The pièce de résistance. A simple summary chart showing 7 hours condensed into 45 minutes, with notes on system upgrades and efficiency gains. It is elegant, clear, undeniable. This is the moment where quiet power becomes visible, where smart revenge is executed flawlessly. I imagine the subtle shock across faces, the disbelief, the reluctant admiration. They thought they set me up to fail. They didn't realize the mountain was mine to shape. Even now, before the meeting begins, I feel the shift inside myself. The nervous energy I imagine my colleagues feeling, I've transformed it into focus, into a strategic rhythm. The suspense is no longer external, it is internal, a coiled anticipation that will release in the meeting, measured, precise, unforgettable. This is more than completing tasks. This is about elevating the system, asserting quiet authority, and showing that intelligence and preparation outweigh assumptions and microaggressions. Finally, I straighten my posture, adjust my notes, and glance once more at the glowing screens, the office moving around me, oblivious to the transformation underway. I feel the surge of quiet satisfaction. Smart revenge is ready. The strategy is flawless. When I walk into that room, The impossible load will no longer feel impossible to anyone but them. It will feel inevitable that I was the one to solve it. And the room will know, silently but unmistakably, that underestimation is their first mistake. You won't believe what happens next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. The conference room feels almost different today, brighter, somehow sharper. Sunlight slants through the blinds, scattering across the polished surfaces of the table and reflecting off laptops and pens, creating long stripes of gold and shadow that dance subtly as the blinds shift. The air carries the low murmur of colleagues, a soft hum of anticipation, punctuated here and there by the shuffle of papers, the clink of coffee cups, the subtle scratch of pens across notepads. Every sound, every movement, seems amplified against the stillness of expectation. I enter deliberately, each step measured, my posture perfectly straight, head held just so, shoulders relaxed yet confident. My hands hang naturally at my sides, unburdened by papers or binders, carrying only my laptop and a quiet, steady confidence that feels heavier than any stack of documents piled high. Each movement is intentional, deliberate, controlled, calculated. I do not rush. I do not fidget. I do not show anxiety. Every microgesture speaks of composure, mastery, and calm authority. As I step closer to the table, the subtle shifts in the room become palpable. Eyes narrow ever so slightly, focusing on me with curiosity, apprehension, and perhaps a trace of disbelief. Half smiles falter, replaced by quiet uncertainty. Whispers that had been exchanged in passing trail off, frozen mid-thought as if the air itself has paused to take note. The colleagues who expected spectacle or struggle suddenly realize they are witnessing something entirely different. Control, intelligence, quiet command. I sense the subtle tension in the atmosphere, like static before a storm. Every subtle movement, a glance at a laptop, a finger tapping a pen, a shifting of weight in a chair carries more meaning than usual. It is as though the room itself is waiting for something to happen, expecting the familiar drama of failure or struggle, yet already sensing it will not come. My quiet confidence fills the space, unspoken but unmistakable, and the invisible dynamic begins to tilt. Even before I place my laptop on the table, I feel the room adjusting to my presence. The boss sits straighter, a faint crease of curiosity crossing his brow. Team leads glance at each other, uncertain, recalibrating their expectations. Colleagues lean slightly forward, subtly drawn to the sequence of control and preparation emanating from me. And I, fully aware of the effect, maintain the calm, deliberate rhythm of my steps. I am in no rush. I am present. I am poised. Every small movement, the gentle lift of my chin, the measured step toward the center of the room, the soft placement of my laptop is a statement. The impossible load, the challenge designed to overwhelm, will not define me. The sunlight continues to trace lines across the room, painting the scene in stripes of clarity and shadow. Each glint on a polished surface, each reflection on a screen, mirrors the quiet tension and anticipation that now hangs thick in the air. Colleagues' eyes track me, some subtly, some openly, all attentive. Every subtle whisper, every micro-expression is frozen as the reality settles in. I am here, fully prepared, calmly confident, and ready to transform expectation into undeniable action. The room is silent in a way that is almost reverent, holding its breath for what is about to unfold. By the time I reach the center of the room, place my laptop down, and adjust the screen, the energy has shifted completely. No one expects the storm of efficiency and insight I am about to unleash. They only sense that the rules of the game have changed. The impossible is about to become manageable. Doubt is about to become recognition. And all of this is about to be revealed through quiet, deliberate, undeniable power. I set my laptop on the table, opening it with deliberate slowness. The slides glow against the dimmed projector, each one carefully sequenced, each one telling a story. I don't speak yet. I let the room settle, letting anticipation build naturally. Every colleague, every manager, every skeptical gaze is locked on me without even realizing it. They thought this meeting would be a routine review, a chance to see me struggle. Instead, it's about to become a demonstration of quiet, undeniable mastery. I start with the first slide, the original workflow. I point to the layers of inefficiency, redundancies, and repeated approvals. My tone is calm, measured, almost conversational. This is the system we've been using, I say. It works, but not efficiently. It consumes more hours than necessary, and it introduces errors that we could avoid. Subtle gestures punctuate my words, a small nod, a soft tap on the slide, eye contact with team leads. I do not raise my voice. Do not dramatize. The silence grows heavier. Next, I reveal the automation. Zapier handles data transfers. Scripts manage formatting. Notifications are queued to go out automatically. The time saved flashes on the screen, 7 hours reduced to 45 minutes. Every eye in the room flickers. A few colleagues glance at each other, uncertain. The boss leans back, trying to maintain composure, but I see the flicker of surprise in his eyes. They wanted spectacle. What they get is intelligence executed flawlessly. I continue through each task, step by step. I don't just show the output, I explain the logic behind it. The efficiency gained, the errors prevented, the processes improved. Subtle confidence radiates from me. Quiet power in every gesture, every choice of words. The room is silent. Not because they are impressed by the slides, but because they are confronting something they cannot dismiss. The transformation is real, tangible, and undeniable. There's a shift in energy, almost imperceptible at first. Colleagues who expected drama or struggle are caught off guard. Those who doubted me now study the slides, following the logic, tracing the process, watching the system itself be elevated. Smart revenge unfolds silently. They aim to trap me. Instead, I turn their expectations into proof of capability. Every inefficiency they thought was just how it is has been exposed, optimized, and upgraded. The boss clears his throat. His usual smirk is gone, replaced by a careful, measured nod. "Lauren," he says, voice neutral, "this is impressive." I do not celebrate, do not soften the quiet intensity in my gaze. I acknowledge him with a subtle nod, a small, confident smile. Recognition is received, not demanded. My team sees the shift too, the workflow they've struggled with, the tasks that seemed impossible, now reduced to something elegant, manageable, efficient. I pause on the final slide. A simple, elegant chart showing time saved, steps reduced, errors prevented. I didn't just finish the task, I say, calm, but firm. I fixed the system that made it inefficient. The room goes still. Colleagues glance at each other, surprised, processing what they just saw. The boss, for the first time that week, is visibly recalibrating his assumptions. Those who underestimated me can no longer do so. Quiet, deliberate power has its way. I allow myself a breath. The suspense that held the room taut for the past 10 minutes releases subtly but unmistakably. Recognition is in the air, silent yet palpable. I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to argue. I didn't have to dramatize. The evidence spoke for itself. Smart revenge was executed perfectly. I elevated the system, demonstrated capability, and transformed expectation into undeniable proof. Finally, the meeting begins to wind down, but the energy in the room has shifted entirely. Colleagues start to approach, hesitantly at first, their curiosity now tinged with a newfound respect. Some lean in to ask specific questions about the automations I implemented. Others linger near the table, quietly observing the spreadsheets and scripts displayed on the screen. The boss, who had delivered the challenge with a smirk earlier, now sits forward, eyes attentive, voice steady but careful, asking for clarification on each step, each automation trigger, each logic sequence. I respond deliberately, my tone calm and confident, guiding them methodically through every improvement, highlighting not just efficiency, but the reasoning behind each decision. Every answer I give reinforces the lesson. Intelligence, preparation, and quiet power outweigh assumptions, microaggressions, and underestimated capacity. Colleagues linger longer than usual, some taking notes, others nodding subtly as they absorb the scope of the transformation. I notice the subtle microgestures that signal respect, the way shoulders straighten, how pens pause mid-scribble, the slight widening of eyes, the small nods exchanged across the table. Even those who were skeptical from the start now shift their posture, leaning in to listen, their energy transformed from doubt to curiosity. The room buzzes softly, not with gossip or whispers, but with the quiet excitement of realization. What they assumed would be a failure has become a demonstration of undeniable competence. I pack my laptop slowly, deliberately, allowing the weight of the moment to settle in. Each click of the lid is a punctuation to the silent acknowledgment rippling across the room. Conversations murmur softly, colleagues exchanging subtle smiles, their eyes catching mine in brief moments of recognition. The dynamic has changed. What was once a narrative casting me as overwhelmed, as too much responsibility, has been rewritten entirely. I walk out with measured steps, head held high, shoulders straight, chest lifted not to prove anything, but because the evidence is irrefutable. Every detail, every result, every optimized process now stands as testimony to capability, foresight, and precision. Outside the conference room, I pause for a moment, letting it sink in fully. They thought they had set a trap, a scenario meant to expose weakness or overextension. Instead, they witnessed quiet strategy executed flawlessly, systems transformed, inefficiencies eradicated, and the impossible made manageable. Chaos became order, confusion became clarity, doubt became recognition. The subtle energy of the room lingers with me, a reminder that success can be quiet, precise, and profound. I remain calm, deliberate, prepared, and unshakable. The reversal complete. The test over. Quietly, strategically, the game has been upgraded. The meeting room, once a stage for doubt and subtle power plays, now hums with an entirely different energy. The projector clicks off, leaving only the soft glow of sunlight slanting through the blinds, casting striped shadows across the polished table. Colleagues sit straighter, leaning slightly forward, exchanging glances filled with acknowledgment, respect, and perhaps even awe. The boss clears his throat, pausing deliberately, his usual smirk replaced with measured composure. When he speaks, every word carries weight. "Lauren," he says, voice deliberate, precise, "your work today, it's exceptional. There is no casual compliment here, no fleeting acknowledgement. This is formal recognition, undeniable and absolute, an affirmation of capability that cannot be ignored or dismissed." The room responds subtly to his words. A few colleagues exchange brief, almost imperceptible nods. Another smiles faintly, eyes lingering on the screens, tracing the work they had underestimated. The air is different, charged not with tension, but with quiet reverence. I allow myself a small, almost imperceptible smile, acknowledging the shift without needing to claim it. Recognition has been earned, not demanded. The impossible load, the challenge designed to overwhelm, has instead become a moment of clarity, a public validation of skill, foresight, and quiet power. As I gather my notes and stand, I notice each subtle ripple, the way the boss leans back, clearly recalibrating his assumptions, the way colleagues exchange small, astonished glances, the way the energy of the room itself seems to lean into respect rather than doubt. Every micro gesture, every slight shift, reinforces the lesson that intelligence and preparation speak louder than skepticism or bias. The narrative has shifted entirely. What was once a test of endurance has become a testament to capability, quiet mastery, and strategic execution. And as I step out of the room, sunlight hitting the city skyline, I feel the weight of the day settle not as burden, but as affirmation. The impossible has become achievable. The underestimated has become undeniable. Quiet strategy has triumphed over expectation. Chaos has become efficiency. Doubt has transformed into recognition. The game has been upgraded, and the proof is not in drama or loud celebration, but in the subtle, undeniable shift of energy, perception, and respect. I remain, as always, calm, deliberate, prepared, and unshakable, the quiet power standing firm long after the room has emptied. I nod once, subtly, keeping my expression calm, composed. No fanfare, no over-the-top celebration, just a quiet acknowledgement that this moment, long overdue, is rightfully mine. The team lead, who had watched skeptically throughout the process, finally meets my gaze, a slight nod, signaling respect. The room feels lighter now, shifted by the gravity of clear, undeniable achievement. My colleagues are no longer waiting for me to stumble. They are seeing what I always knew: intelligence, preparation, and quiet power can overturn expectation. I allow myself a brief moment to notice the reactions. A colleague leans forward, eyes bright with curiosity, asking about the automation and workflow improvements. Another whispers to the person next to them, clearly impressed by the time saved and process clarity. Even the boss, who had delivered the challenge with a smirk, now studies the slides again, tracing every step, recalibrating assumptions. The subtle shift is complete. The power dynamic is no longer weighted against me. It is shared, acknowledged, elevated. I speak softly but clearly, walking the team through the system upgrades and the reasoning behind each step. My voice carries authority, not arrogance. Every explanation, every micro gesture reinforces confidence, expertise, and quiet leadership. The room listens, absorbing the fact that this wasn't luck. It was strategy, intelligence, integrity. The realization slowly dawns. This was not just about completing tasks. It was about elevating the entire system, creating efficiency where there was none before. A few colleagues begin nodding, smiling, the subtle energy of validation spreading. The team lead leans back, arms crossed, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Recognition is being internalized. My quiet power is working silently, invisibly, but unmistakably. I do not need to assert dominance. It asserts itself through the evidence and clarity of execution. Smart revenge, after all, is most effective when it leaves no room for argument, only acknowledgement. The boss leans forward again, voice softer now, tinged with something like respect. "Lauren, this changes everything. The way we approach tasks, the workflow, even team coordination. This is exceptional work." He pauses, looking around the room. "I think we all need to reconsider how we structure these processes moving forward." The words hit like a quiet triumph. This is public acknowledgement, subtle yet irreversible. The game has shifted. I allow myself a nearly imperceptible smile. Not a celebration, not a victory lap, but a simple, grounded recognition of accomplishment. The room is quiet, attentive, filled with subtle energy, respect, understanding, and the unspoken acknowledgement that what I achieved was more than completing tasks. It was a demonstration of insight, strategy, and empowerment. Quiet power, executed with precision, has rewritten the narrative. Colleagues begin to ask questions, eager to learn, to understand, to replicate the workflow improvements. I respond with calm, clear explanations, guiding them through each automated step, each improvement. Every answer reinforces the fact that intelligence, combined with preparation, can transform obstacles into opportunity. The impossible load has become a teaching moment, a shift not only in workflow but in perception. By the time the meeting concludes, the room is buzzing not with gossip, but with curiosity and subtle admiration. Recognition is internalized, respect has been earned. The boss nods once more, quietly but deliberately. Before turning to leave the room, I gather my notes, closing the laptop with slow, deliberate movements. My posture remains straight, my shoulders relaxed, my head held high. No drama, no excess, just the steady satisfaction of justice realized through competence and integrity. As I step out of the room, I notice the subtle shifts in the team. Smiles, nods, brief eye contact, colleagues pausing to acknowledge the effort and strategy. The energy is lighter, elevated, collaborative. The impossible load that was meant to crush me has instead become a catalyst for recognition, empowerment, and lasting change. I walk down the hall, deliberate steps, quiet strength radiating, knowing that today, silent strategy and preparation have rewritten expectations. And in that moment, I feel it deeply. Quiet power doesn't need applause. Recognition doesn't need loud celebration. Justice, earned through intelligence, preparation, and integrity, resonates stronger than any theatrics ever could. The game has shifted, the team elevated, and my strategy has been acknowledged. The smart revenge was executed flawlessly, and its ripple effect will be felt long after the meeting ends. If you've ever been overlooked or underpaid, this part's for you, and if you feel that, hit that I step out of the office building, sunlight warm on my skin, the city moving around me like a living pulse. For a moment, I allow myself to breathe, to feel the weight of the day settle not as burden, but as evidence. Evidence of strategy executed, expectations overturned, and quiet power recognized. 4 impossible tasks were meant to test me, to see if I would crumble under pressure. Instead, they became the stage where intelligence, preparation, and integrity shone brightest. I think about the colleagues who doubted me, the whispers and sideways glances, the subtle assumptions made about what I could handle because of my identity. Those doubts, born from bias and stereotype, became the fuel for precision, the motivation for strategy. I didn't need to prove them wrong with anger or drama. I proved them wrong with preparation, insight, and controlled execution. That is the essence of empowerment, turning unjust challenges into opportunities to elevate systems, teams, and oneself. Quiet power resonates differently for Black women in corporate spaces. It is not about loud confrontation. It is not about proving competence through aggression. It is about seeing the gaps others ignore, designing solutions they cannot imagine, and executing them with precision and integrity. Today, I didn't just survive. I led. I elevated. I upgraded the very framework that tried to hold me back. That is the kind of victory that is felt more than it is applauded, lasting more than it is celebrated. I think of my team, who now watch, curious and inspired. They see a workflow transformed, yes, but they also see something deeper, a blueprint for how to navigate bias, pressure, and impossible expectations with dignity and intellect. Leadership isn't only in titles, it is in action, strategy, and the courage to execute quietly but decisively. The ripple effect of today will extend far beyond these tasks. It will shape perceptions, influence culture, and demonstrate that intelligence paired with integrity cannot be underestimated. And in the quiet moments, walking down the hallway, I remind myself, empowerment is grounded. It is in control, creativity, and integrity, not in yelling, dramatics, or reactive force. It is in seeing opportunity where others see obstacles. It is in transforming pressure into leverage and doubt into recognition. The work I completed, the system I upgraded, the respect I earned, these are not moments of luck. They are the results of deliberate, intelligent action, executed without fanfare but with undeniable impact. As the day fades and the office lights dim, I carry a simple truth. Black women in corporate spaces are powerful beyond measure. Not because we shout the loudest, but because we see what others overlook. We transform what is impossible into possible, what is underestimated into undeniable. We do this not for spectacle, but for progress for ourselves, our teams, and the integrity of the systems we inhabit. I pause, looking at the city skyline, feeling grounded, and say it quietly to myself. I didn't just survive their test, I upgraded the entire game. That sentence isn't bravado. It is a testament, a grounded lesson, a reminder that intelligence, strategy, and quiet power can rewrite narratives, challenge assumptions, and elevate entire teams. And for every Black woman who has been underestimated, overlooked, or doubted in the workplace, remember this. The system can be changed. The impossible can be conquered. And your power, quiet, deliberate, undeniable, is your greatest tool. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this story. If it spoke to you, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more stories that heal, inspire, and remind us who we are. For every Black woman told to stay quiet, speak anyway.